Hi everyone, Flora here, your personal life coach to help you create a life that you are wildly obsessed with and so excited about. So today I'm so pumped. This is the third part in this month's series of saying no so that you can say yes to the life that you have always wanted. So if you didn't watch the first two parts, which was last week and the week before, don't worry about it. Check them out when we're finished. But today I want you to get out your notebook because today's is a little mini workshop that we're going to do together. And this is really going to help you to be able to recognize those yeses and those no's in your life so that you can really, like I said, start to create a life that you're wildly obsessed with and so excited about. So grab your notebook and let's get started. So to briefly review what we talked about over the last couple of weeks, we talked about what is saying no? What is saying no to someone and what it really means to say no to someone. We looked at why sometimes it's hard to say no and why sometimes it's really easy to say no. We also looked at some of the ramifications of saying yes to someone when we truly mean no. And so we also talked about the stop doing list of things that we are no longer available to do in our life. And so I left you last week with asking you to think about what your priorities are in your life right now. So as our life ebbs and flows and as the seasons in our life change, like before kids, during teenage years, when you're an empty nester, all that stuff, or if you don't have kids, and so you're varying degrees of your career and life. So based on the phase of life that you're in, I want you to think about what are your 4 priorities right now. Now, I did a workshop in March inside of the 1 Degree Shift Tribe where I had everyone go through this process, and this is actually in chapter 3 of my book. So if you have this book, bust it out. And in chapter 3 we looked at priorities, and I take you through this 3-list process. We're not going to do that today. That's in another video. But this process helps you figure out what your priorities are in the moment. So, and at this moment. So, the first thing that I want you to do is in your journal, I want you to remind yourself, first and foremost, what phase of life are you in right now? Are you like I'm an empty nester? Are you raising babies? Do you have middle-aged kids? Middle kids that are in like middle school. So you've got like the soccer practice, you've got all the sports stuff, piano lessons, that whole shebang. Or do you have teenagers? Do you have college age kids that are living with you? So when you look at and take into account the phase of life you're in, that's really going to help you to recognize what your priorities are or should be right now. So remind yourself what phase of life that you're in. Then I also want you to write down and remind yourself what are your top 4 priorities. So I'll give you just a few moments to write that out. What you can do, grab your notebook. This is actually full. I need to get a new one. So grab your notebook. Number 1, what phase of life am I in? Because that will influence your priorities. And then write down, okay, what are my top 4 priorities right now? It could be strengthening your physical body. It could be building wealth. It could be moving. Like if the phase of life that you're in right now is you're moving from one state to another, that is going to be a top priority for you. Now, it's going to be a temporary priority because maybe it's going to last maybe 6 months, where you prep the home that you're in, you find a new home, you move, you settle into the new place. So really give yourself permission. Are you going to school? Did you just finish school? So now you're in the phase of looking for a job. Are you buying land? Whatever it is, give yourself permission to get really honest about the phase of life and what your priorities are. If you don't know what your priorities are, like I said, that's in another video. And if you really want to know what that video is, private message me. I'll have my team send you the link for the other video. Or you can jump into the 1 Degree Shift Tribe. You'll have access to all the trainings that we've been doing this year based off of my 1 Degree Shift Tribe book, or my 1 Degree Shift book. So when you're finished writing out what phase of life that you're in and what your top 4 priorities are, what I want you to do is write done in the comments so that I know that you are done. I will give you just a few moments to do this. This is huge. I'm so excited. So, fun fact, while you're doing this, fun fact, when you think about stuff or just say things, only about 600 spots in your brain light up. When we put pen to paper, over 60,000 places in our brain light up. So this is one of the reasons why journaling is so popular, but also why it's so transformational, because it truly activates us at a totally different level. Agatha said, I did a private coaching for 6 months. We released a lot. Yes, we did. It was incredible, incredible. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the transformation that happens with private coaching it's otherworldly. It truly, truly is. Oh my goodness. Oh, I love it. All right, so now that you have completed the first thing, so you've written out what your top four priorities are, as well as the phase of life that you're in. Now what I want you to do is I want you to think about the 3 to 4 things that you find yourself always saying yes to that you would rather say no. Okay? So those top 3 or 4 things that you always say yes to that you would actually rather say no to. Now, this could be a obligation that you have, or a perceived obligation that you have for family. It could be something if you go to a church. Like, I'll give you an example, and I actually talk about this in my book. Whoops, one of my older sisters, my book just like jumped out at you guys. One of my older sisters used to sing for, well, she still does, but she used to be the go-to person for funerals and weddings at the church that she goes to. Like, for 8 years, she literally was the go-to person. So she was like the main person, and then there was other people, but every once in a while, those other people backed out at the last minute or whatever, or the people that had a funeral or the people that had a wedding, like, they just didn't even think to get someone to sing. And so they would like, oh, hey, could you do it? And she'd be like, yes, yes. And so yes was her default, even though sometimes she had other things planned. And so she would change her plan so that she could do that because she felt obligated to do it. Well, when she first started, she was like, oh my God, yes, this is amazing, woo! Well, then her daughter grew up and got older, which came with all kinds of other things. So the phase in her life had changed. So she went from a toddler to now an older child, and she had a lot of other things. She was in this all these, like dance competitions and all these things, which took a lot of time. She also volunteered for that. So she started to feel resentment towards saying yes. And she didn't like that resentment. She was like, ugh. But she's like, it's so hard to say no because I don't want to disappoint people and all these other things. And so in looking at the things that we automatically say yes to, that we would rather say no to, and then recognize how that yes felt. This is important. When you recognize how that yes felt in your body, then you can kind of lean into it a little bit more. And we're going to, kind of dig into that in just a moment. So in my sister's case, she said yes, she felt resentful. And she's like, ugh, she didn't like it. So then I was like, okay, so what can you do instead of saying yes? You can say, well, I could say no. But again, she had this big internal conflict because she's like, I don't want to disappoint people, yada, yada, yada. And then I said, well, is there any way that you can set those people up to let them know that you may not be able to do things spur of the moment? And she's like, oh, absolutely. So she contacted the church and she said, you know, I'm going to be doing a lot of volunteering this summer. So there is a very strong chance that if you call me last minute, I won't be able to sing for the weddings or the funerals. And just letting those people know what happened is that gave her an out. That gave her the opportunity to tell them, hey, I might not be able to do this. And it gave her that feeling of freedom of like, oh my gosh, yes. And so if she didn't have anything going on and it really felt like a yes, then she did it. But if she had other things going on, or it just didn't feel good to say yes, then she said no. She said the first couple times she said no was a little scary, but with practice, then all of a sudden they recognize that she is not now the default person and she's not going to always say yes, and that there might be times where she can't do it. And so think of all those times where people just ask you or they just tell you that you're doing something, that you kind of have this default yes, or it's expected of you to do something that is really not your responsibility, or somebody has put something on you that you said yes to that all of a sudden you're just like, wait, why do I keep saying yes to this when it's really just not in my highest good and not in alignment with where I'm going right now and my priorities? You know what I mean? So recognize what that yes felt like. And I want you to write down next to those top 3 or 4 things that you automatically say yes to that you would rather say no to. And I want you to write down what it felt like for you to say yes. So maybe somebody asked you to do that thing at the church and you said yes. So how did it make you feel? Resentful, maybe angry, maybe frustrated, whatever it is. Maybe if someone asked you to go to their citywide garage sale and help out. Maybe you've helped out for the last 5 years, but maybe now you had something planned and they just said, oh, hey, we have our garage sale coming up. I need you to be at my house Friday night at 6 p.m. We're going to price stuff. And then I need you to be back at my house tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. so that, you know, we can set everything up and yada, yada, yada. So they're just thinking because you've been there the last 5 or 6 years now that you're automatically going to show up this year. So that's, again, maybe you're just like, well, maybe this year I don't want to do that. Maybe I have something else planned. You know what I mean? So everybody's list is going to look different. So like I said, give yourself permission to write out and look at those 3 to 4 things that you have written down. And then how did it feel to say yes to that when you really wanted to say no? And you're going to pay attention to kind of your heart space area right here, because this is going to tell you and show you how it feels. Now, typically when it's a full body yes, we're like, oh, hell yes, I totally want to do this. It feels really expansive. If we say yes and we really mean no, it's going to feel closed up. It's going to feel tight. It's going to feel heavy. We're going to have these emotions that are all wrapped up in it. So I'll give you just a few moments to do that. So again, we are writing out the 3 to 4 things that we find ourselves always saying yes to that you would rather say no to. So write those out. And then next to those 3 to 4 things, I want you to write out how it felt or how it feels when you say yes, when you would rather say no. So I'll give you just a few moments to do that. Woohoo! All right. Good stuff. All right, so the third thing that we're doing is I want you to think about a time that somebody asked you to do something and you were like, no. That is a hard and fast no. So this could be, let's just say that you're driving and you're at a party and somebody offers you an alcoholic beverage, and one of your rules for yourself, one of the things that you just don't do is you don't drink and drive. So when somebody offers you an alcoholic beverage, it's just a hard and fast, nope, I'm good. I don't drink and drive. You don't even think twice about it. It feels natural. It feels empowering. It feels good. You say that no with confidence and conviction. Maybe, oh, let me see. There's a lot of different ways, but I mean, think about a time when somebody asked you to do something, or like, let's just say that you're vegan. and somebody offers you a beef burger, it's gonna be a hard and fast no. You're gonna be like, no, it's okay, I don't eat meat. Maybe you're a vegan and somebody's like, oh, hey, do you want a portobello mushroom burger? And you're gonna be like, oh, hell yeah, bring that on, yes. You know what I mean? So, maybe you don't drink milk and somebody offers you a milkshake. You're gonna be like, nope, I'm good, because maybe you're lactose intolerant. Whatever it is. So think of those really easy no's and how it feels for you to say no to that thing. So I'll give you just a few moments to do that. And again, write out your 3 to 4 no's that are really easy for you to say no. And then ask yourself, how does it feel for me to say no? Now remember, last week we talked about when you say no to someone, they're literally in the same position as they were before, okay? They just need to pivot and ask somebody else whatever it is that they're asking, all right? So I'll give you just a few minutes to do that. And I really want you to, when you write out how it feels to say yes, when you really mean no, and how it feels to say no when you really mean it, pay attention to how it feels and where you feel it in your physical body. All right, so now, number 4, I want you to think about those full body yeses. When somebody asks you to do something, like maybe one of your priorities is community service. Maybe you like legit love volunteering and you absolutely love being part of the community and doing community projects and all this other stuff. So maybe your neighbor comes over, knock, knock, knock. Oh, hey, so-and-so, what's up? Check this out. This weekend, there's a whole shebang coming in, this whole, extravaganza at the other end of town. We're doing a Habitat for Humanity build, and we need 200 volunteers. You're the first person that I thought of. What do you say? It's Friday night, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday. Maybe you had plans, but this trumps those because this absolutely is part of your priorities. You're like, oh my God, yes. And it's a full body yes. You're like, hell yes, sign me up. Tell me where to go. Woo! You know what I mean? So write out those full body yeses where someone asks you to do something and you are like, yes, 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 absolutely. So write out those top 3 to 4 things that you have recently experienced when someone asked you to do something and there was no question in your mind. You were like, yes, absolutely. So go ahead and write that out. And then, where did you feel it in your body? How did it feel to say, hell yes? And I'll give you just a few moments to do this. This is the best exercise. It's so good. So remember, this is part 3. We talked about more of this last week. We talked about it the week before as well. So if you missed those 2 sections, totally cool. You can grab them after this. You can watch them after. All right, so you have 3 lists, okay? Actually, you have 4. So the first part is you reminded yourself of what phase of life that you're currently in and what your priorities are. You also gave yourself permission to look at and reflect on those top 3 to 4 times that you said yes when you would have rather said no, okay? And you made note of what it felt like to say yes when you really just wanted to say no. And we talked about the ramifications of what happens when we say yes, when we really want to say no. And then The next thing was the top 3 to 4 times when you said no and you really meant it. Like you were like, no, I'm good. I'm good. Nope. Not gonna do it. Then those times where it was a full body yes, you're like, hell yeah, sign me up. Woo, yes, let's do this. Woo! And you feel it. So pay attention to how that feels. Now, the cool thing about this exercise is it gives you permission to see what those easy no's are. Because some people say, oh, I have the hardest time saying no to people. No. If you genuinely don't drink and drive, and someone says, pretend this is vodka, this is water, but let's just say you don't drink and drive, like you just refuse to do this, it's not even part of your paradigm. And somebody says, here, have a drink. And you're like, no, thank you, I'm good. I've got my water, I'm good. Oh, but you're gonna miss out on all the fun, yada, yada. You're like, I don't like being hungover and I'm driving, I'm good. It's a natural no, and you're firm on it. And you feel confident, and you feel that you're just like the embodiment of the no. You're like, no, I'm good. What happens when you recognize that it actually is quite easy to say no when it's an authentic no, and you're not worried about what if, oh, well, I have to drink and drive because these people are going to look down on me. That's bullshit. No, you're just like, no, I'm good. But when it comes to saying yes to a PTA meeting that you really don't want to go to, or a garage sale that you really don't want to head up, or whatever else that you say yes to that you really mean no, it's usually these stories in our head. And again, we talked about this last week. These stories in our head of possibly disappointing others. Well, think about how much you're disappointing yourself. When you know what your priorities are, and you go against those priorities, you are hurting yourself more than anybody else. And when you can start to recognize how those yeses feel that are not in alignment with your priorities, that are not in alignment with what feels good in here, and you would rather say no, you're going to start to honor that. You're going to start to recognize this doesn't feel good. I don't like how this feels. And with practice, you can start to think about, okay, so someone is asking me to do something. You can reflect on, okay, what are my priorities? Is this in alignment with the life that I'm living? If not, bow out. Say no. Thank you for the offer, but I'm going to have to pass. And again, we talked about this last week. Somebody asks you something and you say no, they're literally in the same position as they were before. That's it. They just have to pivot and ask somebody else. That's it. Now they just know, oh, okay, you're not the person for the job. Awesome. Whether it's, hey, would you marry me? Or, hey, would you make some cupcakes for the PTA meeting? Would you drive for the carpool? All of that you can say no to if it's not a hell yes. And again, we reflected on what it feels like for you to say no and what it feels like for you to say, yay, yes, this is so good. You feel that difference. You feel the difference. And the funny thing is the people that you say yes to that you would rather say no to, they feel the difference too. They feel that shift in your energy. They feel that lower vibration. They feel the dip in your energy. They feel you go, oh, yeah, I'll do it. And they're like, are you sure? And you're like, yeah, I'm good. And then a lot of the times people build up that resentment and these stories in their head. All of that can go away. You are in charge of your life. If you truly want a life that you're excited about, you need to start saying no to those things that don't light you up. Courtney Carver, I'm going to keep quoting her because she's so incredibly amazing. Courtney Carver, she is the originator of the Project 333. If you don't know what it is, Google it, look at it. It's freaking awesome. She's also a minimalist. But one of the things that she says is, I don't say no because I'm busy. I say no because I don't want to be busy. That's it. I don't say no because I'm busy. I say no because I don't want to be busy. She knows what her priorities are. And if something is not in alignment with those priorities, it's a hard and fast no. Think about how many times you have thought to yourself or said to somebody else, I really want to do that, but I just don't have the time. I just don't have the time. All year, we have been looking at your priorities. We've been looking at getting unbusy, paying attention to the busy so that you can start to ask yourself, do I really need to do this busy in my life, or can I minimize it or get rid of it altogether? Because when you get rid of the busy and you get rid of these yeses that are actually no's and start to live in alignment with your priorities, what happens is you get your dream life by default because you know where you're going. You know what your priorities are. You know what lights you up. You know what the full body hell yes feels like. And you also know what the full body no feels like. I want you to think about someone that you know that is boldly confident, not in an egotistical, asshole-ish type way, and not someone who's just full of themselves, but someone who's genuinely, humbly confident. They know who they are, they know where they're going, they know what they want in life, and they speak it with tact. They don't always agree with people. They share their, whatever it is, their beliefs, their opinions in a tactful way. And they're just no, I don't agree with that, but that's cool. That's what makes the world go round, having differing opinions. Think about someone who has that calm confidence. They know where they're going. They know that successful people say no without guilt. That was a quote that we had from Jack Canfield. He says, successful people know how to say no without feeling guilty. That's huge, huge. There's another quote that I want to share with you that I shared a few weeks ago from James Altucher. He says, when you say yes to something you don't want to do, here's the result. You hate what you're doing, you resent the person who asked you, and you hurt yourself. So the ramifications of doing things that are not in alignment with where you're going and what you want are huge, huge. So the takeaways for this week is I want you over the next couple of weeks to really pay attention to how you feel when somebody asks you to do something. Pay attention. Where do you feel it? Is it a hard and fast no? Is it a full body hell yes? Pay attention to that. And if you find yourself saying yes when you would rather say no, you could say, the largest part of me wants to say no. Be honest with them. The largest part of me wants to say no. And the small part of me that wants to say yes feels like saying yes because I feel like if I say no, you're going to be mad at me. Literally call it out. Be honest with the person. Be honest. And the thing about that is you can have a beautiful conversation with the person about what it is that you're talking about. Oh, hey, come to my house. Do the whole garage sale thing, the example that I used earlier. You could be like, you know what? I've got other plans this year. Thanks for thinking of me, and I might swing by and buy something maybe, but I got other things planned. So good luck and yay. Thanks for thinking of me. And the thing is you don't have to explain why you're saying no. No is a complete sentence. You don't have to explain yourself. If you want to, you can, but be honest about it. Give yourself permission to live your life the way you want to live it. And if somebody else has an issue with it, that's not your problem. That's on them. If they have a perceived obligation that you need to do something, educate them. Educate them. Let them know that that is an inaccurate viewpoint. The best relationships on the planet, whether they're intimate or platonic, are and result from the ability to have awkward conversations, truly. And they're awkward in the fact that you're brutally honest with the person, with hopefully using tact, but still, you're like, I really don't want to say yes because I'm just kind of sick of doing this and I don't want to do it. Or you can just say, no, I'm not, I'm going to pass this year. And that's it. Like, you don't have to give an explanation. But out of all of this, give yourself permission to really tune into how it feels when someone asks you to do something. Really tune into your body. Really tune into your high self. I truly believe intuition speaks to us first through our physical sensations, through those little aches and pains and twitches and tweaks and those little pulls and those nudges and those knowings that we have inside of our body. A lot of people feel things in their heart or their gut or their throat. So pay attention to how you feel when someone is asking you something. And then honor that. Honor it. And if you said yes for 10 years something, for whatever it is, and somebody asks you and it's a no, just be like, actually, I'm not going to be able to do that this time, but thank you. And they're going to be like, what? But you've been doing this for like 10 years, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's time to pass the torch. Yay. So next week, we're going to be looking at some creative ways to say no. I've given you some examples today. It's time to pass the torch. No thanks, I'm good, whatever. But I'm going to give you more creative ways to say no. And then I also want you to come with questions, whatever questions that you have for me about any specific scenarios that you have in your life. Come bearing questions. And on Wednesday, we're going to go live here again. We're going to look at some creative ways to say no. We're going to wrap up the month of being able to say no so that you can say yes to the life that you truly are building and the life that you truly want. Okay? I hope this serves you. If you want to have access with me inside of the 1 Degree Shift tribe, where we dig deep into all of these things that we talk about, not only in the 1 Degree Shift book, but all kinds of extra stuff, go ahead and click the link in the comments or in the description of this video. Join us. It is incredible. We just had a 90-minute group coaching, hot seat coaching, and group reading for our VIPs. Oh, it was so out of this world. It was so incredible. So I hope to see you in there. If not, I hope to see you back here next Wednesday with your questions. If you didn't see the first 2 videos, go either to my YouTube channel, here on Facebook. You can go to my website, click on the blog, and read or watch the previous 2 videos to this one. And I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that this truly helps you today and over the next couple of weeks. All right, I love you. Click the link, join us inside the 1 Degree Shift tribe, and I will see you back here next week. Mwah! Bye.